Hello. Right. It's 7 o'clock. Welcome to the Planning Committee of Ealing on the 6th of November 2024. We have two items on the agenda tonight, and I'll run through the agenda as of now. So apologies for absence and substitutions. Councillor Jassel is substituting for Councillor Shaw. Councillor Wall is not very well. She's unable to attend, and Councillor Ball is potentially running late. And of course, if he does get here after we've started the first item, he won't be able to vote. He'll be able to take part, but he won't be able to vote. Okay. I don't think there's any other apologies. Right. Urgent matters. I'm not aware of any urgent matters. Nope. Right, let's move on. Declarations of interest. Any interest by any of the members? Nope. Okay, let's move on. Matters to be considered in private? Nope, I'm definitely not aware of any of those. Right, minutes of the last meeting on the 4th of September. Agree? Yeah. Thank you. Site visit attendance. Right, let me go to my notes. So, Councillor Martin, Councillor Sahota, Councillor Mahmood, Councillor Kelly, who kindly drove us, Councillor Raza, Councillor Iqbal, Councillor Jassel in place of Councillor Shaw, Councillor Rice, Councillor Ball. I haven't got any others unless I'm missing someone. Sorry? Well, you didn't go. So I'm only mentioning the ones that went. Okay. So those are the ones that attended site visit. Otherwise, they didn't go, just to be clear. Right, let's move on. Okay, so planning, we'll go to the substantive part of the agenda. So planning application, the Green Quarter. Marilyn, do you want to introduce that, please? Thank you. By the way, just to let everyone know, we are live. We are going out live streaming. I forgot to tell you.
Right, good evening, Chair, councillors, and everyone listening in. I'll be presenting tonight's first item on the agenda for the former gasworks site, now known as the Green Quarter. The application site is located in Southall. The Grand Union Canal borders the site to the west. The railway line to the south and the Southall Elizabeth Line station is located to the east. The site is not located within a conservation area. However, the water tower, a Grade 2 listed building, is located to the east of the site, and the canal site and Bulls Bridge conservation areas are located to the west and the southwest of the site. The proposal is for an outline planning application to drop in the consented master plan for phases 4 to 9 of the original master plan, which was originally consented in 2010 and amended by Section 73 amendment application. The current outline planning application is only for the parameter plan, the design code, and development specification. All other matters, including layout, scale, appearance, landscaping, and access, are reserved. A total financial contribution in excess of £41 million has been secured. The current application seeks a maximum floor area for residential, as well as commercial spaces, education, and an energy centre. 109 public comments have been received during the application, 102 objections, and 5 supporting comments. The majority of comments have been received from within Ealing. However, 7 responses were made from outside of Ealing within London, and 5 responses from outside London. The majority of comments pertain to the increase in traffic, pollution, height of the development, the impact on community facilities, and overdevelopment of the site. Comments from all statutory consultees have been included within the Planning Committee report. Since the original application was submitted in 2010, several amendments have been consented. The first amendment saw the reduction in retail floor area, as shown on this slide on the right-hand side. And then amendments to phase 2 further reduce the floor area of the retail, office, cinema, health center, and the sui generis uses. The hotel and conference and banqueting uses have also been removed completely, while affordable workspace and community center have been secured. The main retail and commercial hub would be located in phase 2 of the Green Quarter site. The phase 4 to 9 are predominantly residential-led with 35% affordable housing. The provision of 8,000 square meters of flexible commercial space would be provided. In addition, the current application secured the provision of a 3-form primary school compared to the 2-form elementary primary school previously secured, as well as a new indoor sports center. The key changes to this master plan includes the location of the school as well as the sports center, as illustrated by the pink on the diagram. The removal of buildings to enlarge the green spaces to improve connectivity between the green spaces, as well as to enlarge the wetlands area. There would be larger open spaces at the key entrances and also active travel focused streets along the strait which borders the railway line. The site is an allocated site in the emerging local plan with a maximum height of 18 stories. This diagram illustrates the proposed height governed by the parameter plan. The proposed height would vary between 4 and 16 stories. The proposed building height would in some instances be higher and in others lower than the consented scheme. However, they would generally align with the consented phases 1 to 3. The design code would control the detailed design to be undertaken in the future reserve matters applications. These images indicate an example of how these mandatory control elements would translate into detailed design. Each variation in heights and separation distances, in addition, all developments on the site would be expected to adhere to the layout, use, access, scale, and appearance principles. The only maximum residential floor area that will be set at this stage. The number of new homes is indicative at 5,566 homes. In addition, the proposed development would provide 35% affordable housing by habitable room. These plots have been grouped into 5 character areas. These areas would have their own unique character and design principles, and which would be designed in more detail during the reserve matters application. The majority of the retail and commercial areas would be located in phase 2, and 3 main hubs within the current application site would be provided, and flexible commercial use would be provided as indicated on the screen. Up to 3,000 square meters of affordable incubator spaces would be provided within the Parkside Yards hub. A range of open spaces and sport and leisure facilities would be provided throughout 6 key open spaces. These areas would provide a network of green spaces throughout the site, as well as the broader Southall and Minute Country Park. A total of 10.7 hectares of open spaces would be provided, and 2.89 hectares of play spaces for children of all ages would be provided. An indoor sports centre would be designed to Sport England standards and would provide cricket, football, basketball, tennis and badminton facilities and much more. The sports centre would be open to the public and therefore serve the entire Southall community. A townscape visual impact assessment was undertaken. When viewed from the north, the proposed development would result in medium to high change. However, when viewed from the south and east of the proposed development, it would result in moderate beneficial visual effect. In considering the impact of a proposal on the significance of the heritage asset, the NPPF states that greater weight should be given to the asset's conservation and more important the asset's greater weight should be given. Therefore, there would be no impact on the water tower located further to the beyond phase 2. And then in terms of the conservation areas, it is considered that the proposed development would result in less than substantial harm at the low end. And then in terms of section 208 of the NPPF, the harm would be weighed against the public benefit. The public benefits include substantial number of new homes, the increase in number of affordable homes, improved pedestrian and cycle infrastructure, biodiversity net gain, significant number of new jobs during construction and operation, financial investments, and these are considered to have sufficient weight to outbalance the less than substantial harm to the significance of the heritage asset. The primary vehicular access is via the existing Seva Drive, connecting the site with Southall via South Road. To the east, and the London Borough of Hillingdon via Pump Lane and the A312 to the west. A new bus route for Bus 95 is proposed along Seva Drive and would be operational early next year. Proposed car parking with a ratio of 0.3 are proposed compared to the 0.7 spaces previously consented. This would be a significant reduction in car parking spaces. On average, 0.3 car parking spaces have also been built throughout the phases 1 to 3. A maximum of 200 car parking spaces would be allowed for commercial uses compared to the 950 car parking spaces consented under the existing consent. 20 of these would be active charging and 80% would be passive car parking charging stations. And cycle parking provision would be provided in line with the London Plan policy standards. A financial contribution towards bus services, healthy streets, and sustainable and active transport have been secured to the combined value of 5.2 million. The contributions for phases 1 to 3 would also be resecured via deed of variation. All other matters, including education, daylight, sunlight, noise and vibration, energy and fire safety have been assessed and found acceptable. Where impacts have been identified, appropriate mitigation have been provided either through the design approach, conditions of consent, or secured through the Section 106 agreement. So in conclusion, the scheme would deliver on an overall intention of the original consent and optimize the housing provision and increase affordable housing provision. The site continues to be a well-connected and desirable location, and the control documents would ensure high-quality, exemplary development can be achieved through the future reserved matters applications. The principle of tall buildings is established, and the proposed development would comprise of buildings up to a maximum height of 16 stories. The proposed development would add significant bulk and massing along the Grand Union Canal. The views along the towpath are currently unobscured, and the proposed development would result in a less than substantial harm at the low end. However, the public benefits have sufficiently weighed to is outweighing this level of harm. Therefore, on balance, it is recommended that the planning permission be granted subject to direction of the Mayor of London. I would also like to draw the committee's attention to the briefing note, which clarifies some amendments to the report and amendment to the recommendation for Hillingdon, which will be required to be confirmed by the chair of the planning committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Verily. Right, we have 2 speakers. We have a Majecta, Mr. Bangu. Would you like to come to the microphone? Has anyone showed you how to use the microphone? You've got, yes, anyone, yes, that one. You've got 3 minutes, and I will call 30 seconds out. I will let you know that you've got 30 seconds. I'm not debating it. You can sit down and do your 3 minutes. She's spoken to me, and you have 3 minutes. That everyone gets 3 minutes, no exceptions. So I will let you know at 30 seconds out that you've got 30 seconds to go.
No, that's fine.
Okay. All right. When you're ready.
Good evening. I'm a resident of Southall. I live in Beaconsfield Road, and these are the reasons that we think that this meeting today should be halted. For the simple fact is, when Berkeley Group got the planning permission for 3,750 flats, those are not completed. We've got flats that are empty. For social housing, we've got people that have been called out of our borough who are living in Southall. They're not for local people. And when you say, Chair, that we have 3 minutes to speak, this is such a large development. We only realized what's going on about 2 weeks ago. We were on the radio on Friday and people are up in arms. And obviously the people will find out, our councillors will find out when we go back to the ballot boxes. Now, if we say that there are 4,350 additional flats that could bring anything into Southall with the other Arches contract, the Southall market, you could have 50 to 60,000 people moving into Southall. Well, the scare there, Chair, is for the simple fact, there is no infrastructure. In Southall, there is no infrastructure, and we've always complained about this. Our councillors do not have anything to do with the residents. We hardly see our councillors. It's the second time I've seen Councillor Jessel. She's my councillor. So it just goes to show we're not all liars. We're telling the truth. They don't answer their emails. They don't answer their phones, and they certainly don't go to dinner with us. And this is how it is for the poor people of Southall. Southall is the poorest town out of the 7 towns that make up London Borough of Ealing. And we are deprived. We are deprived from hospital, doctors, lack of police. The Metropolitan Police are short of staff, and yet you want to put more burden on us. Well, I can just give you a quick example if you don't mind. The traffic is horrendous. I understand there was a walkabout on Saturday. Nobody told us there was a walkabout, and this development is at the back of my house. They don't have enough ambulances. There's no space in the hospitals. So really, I would say that let Berkeley Group complete the 3,750 flats, and then we go forward. That's fair and square for everybody. It's no good giving them planning permission, and yet the flats are not packed. Poor people can't afford £425,000 for a 2-bedroom flat in Southall.
Thank you very much. That's 3 minutes. Thank you. So we have. You finished? Thank you. We have Richard McGibbon from Berkeley Group, or representing Berkeley Group. And can you please start commenting? Afford him the same respect that he afforded you when you were speaking, please. I'm not debating. I'm gonna.
Okay, good evening.
Well, sorry, wait a minute, hold on. If we keep getting comments from the members of the public, we're going to have to clear the public gallery. That's all. So please don't. You're here to listen. Now, Mr. McGibbon, you've got 3 minutes. I'll let you know at 30 seconds out and start in your own time.
Thank you. Good evening, committee members. My name is Richard McGibbon. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Berkeley Homes, to speak in favour of the application before you tonight in relation to the Green Quarter Southall. I'm head of development at the Green Quarter, and I've been involved in the project and based on site for more than 8 years. When I first began work on the project, the site was inaccessible. The surrounding area was suffering from urban decay, and it was in desperate need of regeneration. I've been fortunate enough to witness the transformation from a Heathrow car park accommodating 16,000 cars to present day, providing homes, public realm and new public facilities. The application seeks to optimise and improve on the original planning consent granted in 2010 and further reinforces our long-term commitment to the site in Southall. The proposed application includes a number of improvements listed in the Council's infrastructure delivery plan. Public benefits package of the application include 35% affordable housing with a policy compliant mix, a significant uplift on 30% secured by the current planning permission. Commitment to a 3-form primary entry school. Delivery of a new sports hall for all public use. Commitment of more than 41 million of financial contributions towards Southall in the Section 106. 21 million for Merrill Sill. A new NHS health facility, which will operate as a central primary hub for GP and outpatient services, and that will be for the wider Southall area, not just for the Green Quarter. 13 acres of open space, a new wetlands with sustainable attenuation. The London Wildlife Trust described the site in 2017 as devoid of habitats. Today we've already planted more than 800 trees and attracts wildlife, and 7 years later you can now hear the birds singing on site. The wider development can facilitate 2 bus routes, one operating from Southall to Hayes and the other an extension of the existing 95 bus route, and there will be a reduction of 940 cars from the existing consent. The environmental impacts of the application have been carefully considered, and we've undertaken a full environmental impact assessment to support the application. On behalf of London Borough of Ealing, Trim Environmental Consulting were appointed to independently review the environmental impact assessment and the environmental statement. This accompanies the planning application, and it's shown to be legally compliant and sufficient information for Ealing to informing Ealing's decision-making process. In conclusion, the application underpins
30 seconds.
In conclusion, the application underpins Berkeley Homes' long-term commitment and investment in Southall and the wider regeneration of the Green Quarter. If permission is granted, it will deliver a significant package of public benefits for Southall. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right, okay. Marilyn, is there anything you want to pick up on, either from the applicant or from the objectors' comments? No? Okay. Right, okay. We're going to throw it open to the committee for questions. I did see this side first, so I'll go down this side. Go down this side. Councillor Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Marilyn. So I need a bit of help with understanding reserve matters, because it's a big application. So how many reserve matters would you anticipate this, after this, how many reserve matters would there be? Obviously you can't give me the accurate number because in the future, 5, 10, 15. So just so I get an understanding of the scale. And my second question is about stories and parameters. So today we are being asked to decide on the parameters of stories, and I just want to be sure that that is sort of put in concrete. That's the. You'd have to go back to a new application if we were to go higher. That's sort of my 2 questions. I hope I've been articulate.
I'll take Councillor Summers next, and then we'll see how many you've got, and then we'll bring the officer in.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I've got 3 questions, but they're all on the same subject, which is the one that raised by the objectors, which is about traffic. So I think the original scheme involved a food supermarket, or a supermarket, which has been removed from the scheme. So you obviously, presumably that's because nowadays largely people get their groceries delivered, but that obviously marks question of delivery vans, and is that being built into the master plan? Where they're all going to park? How are they going to access? So the second question is about the access road onto the Hayes bypass. I just wanted to get some clarity on what vehicles can use that, and in which directions. Buses, I understand, already can use it, but I just need to clarify. Is that where we're going to get traffic, or is there going to be loads more traffic going out onto the into sort of central Southall, which is already quite congested? And the third question is about the bus route, which is mentioned. The 95 bus. It says new bus route, but the 95 already exists and goes all the way to Shepherd's Bush. I'll go on it quite a lot, and it's only a single decker bus. and it gets quite crowded. So I'm just curious, does that mean, is the section 106 include extra buses or double-decker buses? Or is it a new route, or is it going to be the existing route, but just with obviously lots more people getting on at the Southall end? Thank you.
Okay, I think there's a few for you, Marilee. Right, should we take Councillor Kelly's first? That'd be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So in terms of Councillor Kelly's question, in terms of how many reserve matters application would be submitted in the future, so there are 8 or 9 parcels within this. There are exactly 8 parcels. So for each parcel, a reserve matter application we're expecting to be submitted. Of course, the applicant can decide to group them together or split land parcels. But according to how the design code works, it would make more sense to have it per land parcel. Then in terms of the parameter heights and the stories, the emerging local plan allows for tall buildings up to 18 stories. This development, the heights of the buildings would vary. So from 4 stories all the way to 16 stories. So 16 stories would be approximately the highest, the tallest building consented. And just to note that this is similar to the existing phases 1, 2, and 3. And within phase 2, there's a marker building up to 19 stories.
So I just wanted to interject because Councillor Kelly, you mentioned stories. Now, the way that the parameter plans are set with measurements. For the purposes of understanding the heights in terms of stories, we've translated what we think, but you need to understand that the way it's set in the parameters is in terms of the measurements. Meters, yeah.
Okay, and then in terms of Councillor Summers' question, so there was originally a food supermarket proposed, and in the diagram that I can maybe put this up again. Let me just share. This diagram, it indicates where the key hubs with commercial and retail activities will be. So of course, the main hub of commercial activities would be located in phase 2, but there are 3 other areas. So a retail small facility would be provided towards the Western Gateway as well. And a service and delivery would be secured via condition. So how that works, it would all be through the conditions. Does that answer your question?
So is it really a matter for the detailed applications, or is it one for here?
It would be picked up in the reserve matters. So each of the parameters in the design code set out the ingredients to go into various parcels, etc., and gives caps on floor spaces, etc. So the precise sizes of those things and the details of the design will come forward in the reserve matter stage.
And in terms of the second question around access road and into Hayes, which direction? So once the road is open to the public, one would be able to go through from Sever Drive towards the A312 through the pump lane. So there's the underpass and then towards the A312. That will go in both directions. I just also would like to point out that you wouldn't be able to drive through from Hayes through to Southall right through the site. A portion of the road would be for bus access only. And then in terms of the bus route, this would be a new route coming through. And the applicant is also in discussion with TfL in terms of the route, how that would work, the frequency, the type of buses, and those details.
I think there's a proposed new route plus an extension to the 95.
Yep.
So there's both.
And of course, a contribution towards TfL, which normally adds to the bus capacity.
So yeah, in terms of capacity going forward. Is that okay? Councillor Rice next.
Thank you, Chair. So I think my question very much does follow on from the question about the bus and the local transport. Because one thing that does come to my mind is that if you've got a lot more people living in the area, you're expecting them to very much depend on the Southall station in order to get out to work and in order to travel, which is, I mean, we're going to have issues probably with Southall station's capacity. And the fact that if there's a problem on the line, then a lot of people could get stuck. So I'm just thinking in terms of what do we do about really marketing the homes to, let's say, people who are already working in the area, so that they don't have to travel quite so far, and so they can just simply rely on these bus routes that are coming in. So I'm just wondering about how we think about that and just make sure that everyone can get into work at all times. And also another question as well is that it does mention about there be expected to be some dust coming from works that are going on. And it mentions a mitigation package. So I just wonder if we could have a bit more detail about what's in the mitigation package for residents that are already there. Thank you. And also there's another point about that there won't be allotments there because of remediated contaminated land. So I just want to clarify, does it mean that the land in the area has been through some cleansing process, or is there a reason why, because of the state of the land, that's why we can't have the allotments there? So I just want to just clarify, just because it's something to really bear in mind for residents who are there if there are any issues with the land there, which I'm sure there isn't, but I just want to clarify. Thank you.
There's three. I'll take them together, Marilee, if you, before we move on. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Councillor Rice. So in terms of the first question around the rail capacity, a study was done and the applicant did engage with the relevant TfL, Crossrail and so forth. At the moment, there is sufficient capacity and it was also future projected and it was found that the link services, there is sufficient capacity up to the period that they did forecast, so there shouldn't be any problems with the rail. Then in terms of dust, I'll have to just look at the report in terms of the mitigation. It is quite technical, so I can always report back to you if that's okay. It is captured within the environmental statement.
I think Alex wants
I
to
can come in on that. So yes, the accompanying documentation does consider the construction impacts and obviously the sort of post built out phases as well. So that forms part of the assessment. And whilst it's recognised that there can be some impacts during the construction, they can be mitigated. And the recommendation before you also captures the conditions that would typically ensure those things can be mitigated adequately. So there are conditions in the recommendation which will look at those sorts of things. I think that was it. In travel plans, you did mention that as well. Sorry, about promoting different ways of working. So again, it's fairly typical in any kind of new developments that come forward where we will seek to secure travel plan arrangements, and those are the sorts of things that encourage people into different modes of travel, and that can also partly address your comment around promoting ways to get to work, etc. So I think it will be covered in that.
Right, and then there's the last question about the allotments and the land contamination. So, I mean, it being a former gasworks site, the applicant has done extensive work to remediate the land. Now, that's a process where where the soil's been cleaned from any contaminants, and that was taken. Those works for the entire site had been completed in 2019. It's a highly regulated process, and Ealing officers, land contaminated officers, have been involved throughout that entire process. And we've also, the applicants worked with the Environment Agency. Several conditions were attached to the original planning condition, and the applicant has adequately addressed those. So currently there isn't any contamination land. However, to protect the site from future, it was just found more suitable not to allow any soil to be brought on for allotments. I would also like just to note that there are conditions attached to this, that if any future contaminants is found, how to deal with that, just in case that if that does happen. And the applicant will also do a gap study just to identify any gaps that may creep up.
Okay, right. Moving on to Councillor Mood.
Thank you, Chair. The three questions and one clarification. One is, today we are considering principally it's like a master plan or our application is not a reserved matter, but we are considering and deciding design code. In design code, probably we will be mentioning the spaces and the heights and some other criterias as well, and the number of the accommodations and houses as well. But
Question.
I'm just wondering if reserve matter application, and is there any specific or legal time after we determine this application, so the reserve matter application will be submitted, or there is no time? And as a local authority, do we have any bounding to the developer to put the reserve matter application? That's the first thing. Second thing, when we are just talking about the phase 4 to 9 on this application, so when we approve the application in 2010, would that be the same phases we are talking about, phase 4 to 9, or we mixed up the phases? When I said mix up the phases, mean how many phases they have done it and how many phases left. So these 4 to 9 phases, have we approved the same phases in 2010, which we are considering again here, or they are different? And the third thing is, in terms of number of houses, we can see has been increased from 1,200 to more than 5,000. So are we still gaining biodiversity gain, net biodiversity gain, or are we lacking on that? Thank you.
Please take those three.
Right, thank you.
Sorry, was there a clarification as well? That's okay. So the first one is timescales on reserve matters.
All right, thank you, Councillor. So there are conditions attached with which would describe by when a reserve matters applications need to be submitted, as well as the implementation thereof. That is condition 1 and condition 3 attached. Let me just see here. All application reserves shall be made to the local planning authority before the expiration of 20 years of this decision. So all should have been made within 20 years. And then permission development should begin no later than 5 years from the approval of every reserve matters application. Okay. Right. And then in terms of the phasing, so because there are some land parcels that are slightly different to the consented master plan, there would be slightly different phasing to that, but we also have conditions to ensure that to request a formal phasing plan that would be submitted with a reserved application. So it is slightly different. The phasing is slightly different. And then in terms of your question on the biodiversity net gain, just give the. So the site will have an urban greening factor score of 0.545, which exceeds the minimum policy standards, and there would be a biodiversity net gain of 13.75%. Yeah, an increase. Does that answer?
Okay. Answer your questions. Right, Councillor Martin.
Thank you. I'm still got a few things to clarify on the road, this Sever Drive. I didn't quite understand exactly what it's going to be used for. So I got the impression on the site visit that we were talking about that being for residents who live on the development, deliveries to them, perhaps waste collection, and the bus. But I wasn't thinking it was going to be a public road. So I'd like a bit of clarity on that, i.e., you know, it might be I suppose, pushing traffic off other roads in Southall. So I just wanted to understand how that is going to operate. The other question I had was whether or not there's going to be a cycle route through the site. Third question was, you mentioned in your report just now about the bus route, one of the bus routes coming in, I think, in January, or certainly the first quarter. Which, is that both of them, or is that just the extension to the 95? And if so, when is the other bus route going to come on? And then there's just one totally different matter, which was, I read in the report that it talked about overshadowing. I know we're talking about reserve matters, etc., but it does suggest that there's going to be some very significant overshadowing on to some of the properties on Beaconsfield Road. And I'd just like to explore that a little bit more, because obviously when it does come back to us, we're going to have to deal with that anyway.
Okay, so there's 4 questions there.
All right, thank you, Councillor. So in terms of what Sever Drive would be used for, it is all the elements that you did describe. There are also cycle lanes and pedestrian footpaths to the side within the verges. So it would be multi-purposes, but you know, every use would have its appropriate setting. Yes, it's currently a private road, but we are negotiating or in discussions with the applicant to adopt the road in the future.
So it will be used by the public, basically?
Yes.
But
No,
it's not a through road
it's,
for the public, just to be...
it's not a through route for vehicles. It won't be for vehicles, but anyone can make use of the road. It would at no point be blocked off. Right. And then your question on the cycle route. So there are already within the existing phases 1 and 3 cycle routes, and a whole package of plans have been, or monetary values have been set aside for cycling and new walking routes. There's also a cycle scheme, so residents can already take bicycles from near the residence and cycle towards the station and so forth. So that's already in place, and that will continue to expand in the future. Then in terms of the bus route 95, so that route would come into play early next year, and the applicant has advised that they're ready for the next bus route, but negotiations or engagement with TfL is still undertaking. So once that's all concluded, that bus route will also be available to the public. Then in terms of overshadowing onto Beaconsfield Road, the design code set forth the parameters in terms of how far the buildings need to be away from the residents. Now, in terms of the current phases 4 to 9, I'll just share this diagram. So this diagram, when it comes up, it illustrates that the school and the sports hall is proposed to be in closest proximity to the residents on Beaconsfield Road. Now, those buildings are much lower than your residential blocks that would be developed. So that would be like 1 or 2 stories high. And then a greater setback would be provided to where the first residential blocks would be. And like phases 1 and 3, they're all stepped in height. So it's not just this big mass of buildings in close proximity to the residents that are stepped to increase that separation distance.
Councillor Raza. So, sorry.
I just wanted to get a bit more clarity on the health aspect of this. There's quite a substantial sum that's been set aside. I say this because in previous schemes, we've also had health provision promised, but then there doesn't seem to be a very good connect with the NHS. Could you shed some more light on how that would work? Thank you.
I'll take Councillor Ball. So I'll take Councillor Ball. As that was just one question, which is unusual for tonight. Councillor Ball, how many have you got?
Well, two.
Right,
they're
okay,
related.
that makes three.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So existing residents of the phases that have already been built have been concerned that the lack of facilities provided, and I know just in the last day or so work finally started on a restaurant, but other than that, there's pretty much just the coffee shop in the building we went on during the site visit. I see in the report there are occupancy triggers for the sports centre, for some traffic matters, and for the improvement payment to Minack Country Park, but I couldn't find occupancy triggers for the bar and remaining restaurant, cafe, and the food and non-food retail units in the phases that we're looking at today, and also for the school. So I wondered if we could outline, do all these kind of items of infrastructure of facilities have occupancy triggers, and if so, how many units are they? And then the other question, which is related, were there occupancy triggers for the already completed phases, and if so, have the developers abided by them?
Okay. Okay. Got that?
Yes, Councillor. All right, so firstly, in terms of Councillor Raza's question on the health, in phase 2 of the consented master plan, a new health centre will be provided. This would be just over 1,000 square metres. We have also, as part of this current application, engaged with the NHS, and a further contribution of £5 million would be made towards the NHS to fit out the building, etc. So what they need that for. So that has been provided, and phase 2 would be the next phase coming forward for development. So it would be developed as part of that phase. Okay. And then in terms of Councillor Ball's question, in terms of the lack of facilities, especially the commercial facilities, these would predominantly be provided within phase 2 of the development. Like I just said, in the next phase that are to be developed, the applicant has applied for several meanwhile applications, which comprise the Parkside Yards, and the future phases, like I've described on some of the slides, would provide some retail and commercial activities, and those will be designed and developed with the reserve matters application. So the phasing plan would indicate how and when that would come forward.
I think that there is a concern that we'll have the same problem going forward, that if we're not at this stage having phasing that requires them to be done, then the developers can just build lots and lots of flats and nothing else for the residents, and leave it for years. Because obviously the timescale of the whole project is 15, 20 years to come, isn't it? So they feel like they could leave all those facilities till the end without those occupancy triggers, couldn't they?
Yeah, I understand the point, but as we've tried to explain, the matters that are being considered tonight are for 4 to 9. A lot of what you've been asking about those facilities in the original consent were conceived to be delivered in 1 to 3. 1 to 3 has been, phase 2, which is the next phase to be built out, has reserved matters agreed, etc., is where some of those things will be coming forward. And as the case officers mentioned tonight, that's going to be happening next. There's also provision in the new drop-in application 4 to 9 for those things. And again, it's structured in a way that is dependent on triggers in terms of occupancy of the development. So it's designed to make sure all the facilities are in place. Clearly, we're at the earlier stages of the development that's being implemented. But it is part of the considerations in the outline consent and this new proposal tonight.
Yeah, so just in terms of floor areas of commercial space that would be provided or developed in the next phase, there would be over 2,500 square meters of retail space. approximately 1,750 A3 to A5 uses. The office and studio spaces, nearly 2,500 square meters of spaces there that would also be provided, which would then provide these kind of uses to the existing residents and the broader community.
I'm sure you'll be using that argument going forward when the committee comes back for reserve matters and future applications that we come and deal with here for the Green Quarter. A couple of questions from me, actually. One is just following on from Mr. Bangu's comment about not seeing this application until 3,750 homes were actually occupied. Is that a possibility, or could it ever be a possibility as a reasoning? Second one is a kind of detail, really, which is on page 22, and it's about the electric boilers and replacing the gas ones going forward. I was just wondering who actually pays for that. Is it the people, the occupiers in the future, or is it part of the Section 106? Because I can't see it as part of the Section 106 in terms of detail of the Section 106. Okay.
All right, thank you, Chair. So in terms of the timings, there are conditions attached that obviously state that within a certain time frame of each reserve matters application, implementation needs to start. So hopefully we would see more development happening earlier on. Does that answer your question, Councillor Chair?
No, sorry, I may have rephrased it probably wrong. So the question from the objector, Mr. Bangu, was that we shouldn't be hearing this tonight because we haven't, 3,750 or whatever's built now hasn't been actually occupied. From my understanding, I don't think that's a possibility. We treat every single application as on its own merit. So one isn't necessarily linked to the other, or particularly occupation, but I just wanted to flush that out. And the other one is about the specific thing about electric and gas.
Okay, I understand now. So the reason for this application coming forward is that the site has the potential to provide increased number of homes. So throughout the development of phases 1, 2, and 3, more homes could have been provided within phases 1, 2, and 3. And therefore, at this point in time, they've come in for the revised application to uplift the number of homes for the future phases. So the purpose basically behind this is so that the developer can provide more homes on site.
Just to clarify, in order to comply with the original consent for 3,750, there was a remainder of 1,222 that would be permissible to be built out in 4 to 9. So you can see there's already it's already been delivered 2,500 homes in 1 to 3. So it's essentially running out in terms of those original parameters, which is why the new application is coming in. So it obviously sets out the framework for a larger amount of residential floor area, which could equate to about 5,566 homes. Okay.
Just further to that, there isn't a mechanism for the planning committee tonight to say, no, we're not considering this until such time as the other phases are complete.
Okay, just
right.
a specific.
And then in terms of the energy and the boilers, so there are currently ongoing constraints on the grid electrical capacity within the area. And as a backup system for now, the backup boilers would be provided. However, there would be an energy center and a site-wide air source heat pump distribution network, which would provide 90% of the demand. And that would be part of the developers that would be providing that. The site would also provide PV panels that would also supplement electricity throughout the site.
Yeah, but I'm going to come back because I don't think maybe I wasn't clear. What I'm saying is that 10% of the energy is going to be backup boilers now in terms of gas boilers. maybe I'm not actually understanding it. Are they in individual homes, or are they just in the energy centre? And at some point, the energy centre will swap over to electric boilers. I've got a view that they're little tiny, not tiny boilers, but single boilers into homes. I'm just thinking, is it when it's occupied and people have got to do that themselves and pay for it, or who pays for it? That's the bottom line. Who pays for it?
Yeah, so these boilers would be in the homes, and that would be installed by the applicant.
Yeah, but the swap over in the future from one to the other, who is it? Is it explicit or in the heads of terms or anything like that, or conditions, or is it not explicit? If it's not, just say it's not. That's all.
I'm going to have to go and have a look at that specific question.
I'll just give you the paragraph, which is the top paragraph on page 22. I don't normally go around for a second round of questions, as you know, Councillor Summers. Okay, you're coming back on your own question.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to completely nail down for total clarity, because it might be people watching on YouTube are not a bit confused like me. The roads through the site. So there's no ability to drive all the way through the site, either from Southall Station End to Hayes Bypass. Is that because there's going to be like sort of no connecting roads, or is there going to be sort of only bus access or only modules? You know, because I'm just trying to work out, you know, if some idiot wants to drive through all the way, you know, run through, is there going to be sort of traffic enforcement to prevent that, or just not going to be
so
two big cul-de-sacs? Right?
Sorry, I think we answered that question on the site visit on Saturday, and there's going to be a bus gate which is going to be monitored. So at some point there'll be tickets given out if you drive through it, whether you can do it mistakenly or whatever. I'm sure there's big signage there as well. So it's meant to prevent cars going through what I call a spine road, and I can't remember the actual name of the road at the moment. Sever Drive. So that is what the spine road is, which is parallel to the railway and parallel to the Uxbridge Road. So it's not meant to be a cut through to avoid the traffic in Southall. Hope that answered your question, Councillor Summers. Councillor Kumar.
Thank you, Chair. I think you've touched on the transport management plan, because there's quite a considerable amount put aside. But this travel plan monitoring, it's that 15,000 that you've got on the phase 4 to 9. What exactly is that going to be? Because there is concern about traffic. So I can understand the first bit, but what exactly would the travel plan monitoring entail? So what would that do? And my concern also remains on the monitoring of the contaminated land. I know you did say something about that it would be ongoing if, so I just need you to clarify that if a bit. So is there a risk of something happening, because that can potentially be serious? And the last one is what's the time frame on the 106 monies? Is it going to be paid in installments, or is it since another borough is also involved, will it come before or after? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor. So in terms of the travel plan monitoring, we have attached a condition, and that would control cars through development, the bus, how things will work, and that regard. So that will be like by our highways team be monitored, so that what is applied for gets implemented and not exceeded, and so forth. Does that make sense? And then in terms of the contamination, the site has been remediated. The officers have confirmed that they were satisfied with the work. The Environment Agency have been consulted.
They won't hear me now, will they? So I just thought that people wouldn't hear at the back, and there was a lot of noise. It was a little bit disruptive to the committee as well, I think. So just give it a pause, and it seems to have dissipated now. Can you hear at the back? Okay, let's go forward.
All right, so the Environment Agency has also been involved throughout the remediation process. So there isn't a concern, it's just there to safeguard for future. It's more like a safety net than there is an actual concern. And then in terms of the time frame for the Section 106 payments, these would vary per obligation. So some would be trigger based on occupancy, some would be on reserved matters applications, some, like, they all have different triggers, which would be secured in the legal agreement.
Okay,
Yeah.
just follow up on what I didn't understand the bit about the highways being involved in the travel plan. Would that be issuing penalties, or what sort of work would highways be doing on that monitoring under the travel plan?
I think it's probably surveys, etc., rather than issuing penalty notices and things like that. I think it's the softer stuff around seeing what build up of traffic, etc. Do we need to tweak it further down the line, etc. I would have thought that's where we're going. We're not out there with the hiding behind trees and slapping penalty notices on people.
Yeah, it's definitely not for that.
Okay, is that's it for questions, right? As normal, I'll now open it up for debate. So please indicate. I've got Councillor Kelly. Councillor Kelly start, and anyone else, please keep their hands up.
Thank you, Chair. Obviously, when questions are raised, it sort of raises sort of questions and interpretations in my own head. This area is very close currently to quite a bit of shopping. The South Road, King Street, and I think if I want to go to central London now and shop, come out of Bond Street Station, it takes me an hour door to door. From this location, it will take significantly less, assuming the Elizabeth line is working. So it has revolutionised this location in terms of the desirability. With desirability becomes investment, and with investment becomes the infrastructure. There's quite a comprehensive, in my view, payments here. I'm pleased to see the monitoring of remediated contaminated land, because that was a big challenge with the initial application. And it has been pointed out, alas, that we can't refuse the application on the basis that the current buildings are not occupied. That has been pointed out to us with legal advice. That is, so if we were to not grant on that basis, it would be subject, in my view, to review and appeal. So this is another chapter in a large development in a hitherto disused, decayed area that was only fit for parking. I'll be frank, I lived in the area all my life, in Greenford and Hanwell, not in Southall. And I would pass this area and I never thought anything of it on the train or when you drive by. And now because it was in disuse. Now, when I go down there, we have homes. Some of them are not occupied, and I understand about the affordability, but it's not our land. There's homes there, which were never there. It's a highly curated road already. It's a shame some people didn't come to the site visit. Anyone is free to drive down there now, and you can't get out the other end. But to all intents and purposes, it's a normal road. Okay, it just doesn't have any homes on either side of it, but the road is done. And that's very unusual to see a road that's actually completed. So I think it's good that they put that spine of a road in, because it really helped me envisage the plan. So we've got one application here now, and we've got up to 8 or 9 further applications where all the details, 95 bus, Hayes, buses coming in from Hayes, shops, no shops, cinema, health matters, as Councillor Raza asked about, all these very important things. We're going to have an opportunity at each phase, each application, to go through them. But I think this is going to benefit the wider Southall. So I am minded to grant this application. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? Councillor Ball. Thank you, Councillor Kingsley.
You've still got your mic on. Yeah. Yes, the objector made good points about potential increase in traffic and about the point that the developer hasn't yet fully either built out or fully occupied what they have built with the original permission. However, we have to consider this application against the fallback position of the extant outline permission for phases 4 to 9, and it has significant advantages over that. So the 30% increase to 35% affordable housing, and of course a much larger total quantum of much needed affordable, because the overall numbers are increasing as well, and the very welcome increase from 2-form entry school to 3-form, and all this is being provided within an envelope of 16 floor maximum blocks rather than 19. So that's addressing the concern that a lot of residents have about overall heights of new developments. So overall, I am supportive of this application, though I can't vote for it for the reason that the Chair mentioned at the start. Just finally, I would press officers and the developer to ensure that the facilities for all the residents in the Green Quarter are built up at a reasonable speed, and that the occupancy triggers are public and clear going forward, so that residents moving in know what facilities are going to be built next year and what they might not get till 2040 or whatever. I think it's really important for the benefit of the current and future residents to be clear on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Ball, and I'm sure you'll monitor that as we go forward with other applications. Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you, Chair. I was just thinking, if I will not be the part of that development, and if I will not be living in the development, and I'm living nearby this development, like residents here, so what benefit I will get it by having this development on my doorstep as an external community, not existing community. So I was thinking about that. I understand when the objector said there is no enough transport infrastructure to serve Southall. We all understand that, but at the moment we are just considering what the application is before us. So I'm just thinking about that. By living close to this development, if I will have a 3-form entry school, if I will get indoor sports center where children can play all over the year, cricket, badminton, and hockey, if I will have a healthcare center as a NHS hub, which is the new development is proposing, if I have got access to outdoor spaces by living outside of the development, I can use these outdoor spaces. If I can use the wetland if I can use the new proposed park, the linear park. So I think I will be, by looking these benefits for the local residents, which are not living in that development, I think is a very good balance. And on the top of that, we are not considering new application here. We are already giving approval in 2010 for that development. What we are getting benefit out of today, instead of 30% affordable housing, we will getting 35% affordable housing. And the one thing is it's not unique, but it's very impressive in this development is thousands of houses when they will be using drainage. And this is a very sustainable urban drainage system. I've read that in the report, where all the drainage water will not be going in a normal or regular way. They will be using that drainage thing to produce a wetland, which is more environmental friendly. And that's the reason. That's not a very common example. So by thinking about these benefits, I will be minded to support that application, Chair.
Right, okay, Councillor Summers, what I'll say is please don't repeat what's already been said. I think it's been said twice now in a lot of cases, so just be as concise as you can, please.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I will try not to repeat the point. I think Councillor Mahmood made some good points about the affordability, and like others have said, it's not our land, and we can only, I think 35% is as good as we're going to get affordable wise. The fact that the Elizabeth line has made Southall more expensive now, I think, so that is just something that that's the way the market works. So even though we're percentage of 50% of normal rent kind of thing, because the overall prices are going up, that's why it's going to get more expensive. But the only other 2 points I was going to make, one is again going about the buses. So I finally got my head around what's going to work. So you're going to have the 95 bus going out from the east end of this estate, and then a new bus going out to the west. Presumably, hopefully, it will go all the way to Heathrow, because you imagine Heathrow will be quite a major employer, well, is a major employer in Southall and for this estate as well. So yeah, hopefully that would be a good idea. And the one last thing is, when I went on a previous site visit to this area for a previous scrutiny panel visit, there was a lot of talk about crime and antisocial behaviour, which has already sort of started to raise its head on this. I still call it the gasworks site, the Green Quarter area. And then, so it's sort of worrying. I think that was up sort of towards Beaconsfield Road area. So that's very disappointing that, people moving into brand new, really nice flats, within a few months, you get antisocial behaviour cropping up. Hopefully, in the design and in the detailed planning permission, we'll be able to sort of design that out as much as possible. But yeah, overall, I am in favour of the development.
Right. Last person to indicate is Councillor Raza, unless anyone else is indicating. Oh, did you? Sorry, I didn't.
I'll
Councillor
keep it brief. For me, just a site visit actually, and on visiting the area a few times now, talking to local people who've moved in, it seems like they are happy to live there. It's a good space to be in and around working and raising a family in. I'm particularly pleased with the monitoring that we've got set out already, because that was a big concern as soon as we've started this work. So very pleased to see monitoring of pretty much everything. which has a budget assigned to it. So that is brilliant. The other thing I would like to see in there, actually possibly on Councillor Summers' point there, is perhaps some youth provision, something that could be mitigating sort of just loitering and more sort of organised provision. But that's something which I'm sure we can talk about when we're knuckling down the detail to what's going on. But on the whole, I think that I'm minded to support this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Martin, did you want to come in?
Well, I don't think I've got anything new to say really, because I think colleagues have covered it. But what I would say is, you know, we've probably, many of us, been involved in this a little bit along the way for quite some time now. Seeing it come together, I found that quite reassuring in terms of, it, you know, it does look like a good quality accommodation that we're putting up. Current standards are very high, I think, and in that respect, I'm very pleased with what we saw on the visit. I mean, what we're doing tonight is really just changing the outline planning application. So we're still going to have to come back and go through each of the phases in a proper manner in the future anyway. So on that basis, I'm certainly mindful to support the outline planning application.
Okay, you got the boo as well. Right, okay, right. To be honest, Councillor Kelly, Councillor Ball, and Councillor Mood have actually summed it up. So there's not much left to say, but a couple of things really. One is to address some of the points that Councillor Bangu made, which is about the site visit. Just to make sure that everyone knows, the site visit is for the committee and it's not a public site visit, although we do advertise it on the website to let people know we are going, but it is not a public meeting. It's a site visit for the committee to actually see the site. Name's on the tin. And yes, in terms of 2 weeks notice, I think the statutory notices went out and should be there for everyone to see in good time. So we gave the statutory notice out there as far as I'm aware. The couple of other things, obviously, it's been touched on, but Crossrail is a transport infrastructure that has enabled Southall to build more homes in Southall. People wanted Crossrail, and this is a consequence of Crossrail, which is more homes. And one thing I'd really like to add is when we're doing the detailed design, I just Southall this is the start of the borough as people coming from the airport, coming from distance Reading. It's just I'd like to have a statement building something that delineates the beginning of the borough or something like that, just to make sure that it's not just another box housing with balconies on it and there's no distinction between here and there, should I say. I'm just throwing it out there because I'd like that to be. I'm getting smiles from the committee, so I don't know whether that means I'm being stupid or I'm being or they're agreeing with me. But that's my point of view. Put it that way. Anyway, by and large, I agree with everything that's been said this evening, so I'll be minded to vote for it, and I'm sure I'll get a requisite boo after saying that. So I'm just going to go to the vote, and right, no one else indicating. Okay, so we'll go to the vote. All those in favour, please show. I realise Councillor Ball can't vote. You got it? Got numbers? Right, all those against? And all those abstain? Well, you don't abstain because you're not in the vote, so you can't abstain. Unless you didn't get a shame for abstaining anyway. Right, okay, thank you very much. We are done with that. We'll move on. If people want to vacate, I'll give them 2 minutes. If they want to stay, that's fine.
Housing is a human right. Here to stay, here to fight. Park, please, blood on your hands. Park, please, blood on your hands.
You stayed all night to say that. Yeah, I'll give to. I think some of them do actually. I'm not debating it. Yes, that's why I gave 2 minutes, so you can just get it off your chest and go. What? Right, okay. Let's move on to. Right, are the committees settled? Right, okay. Olivia, do you want to introduce Colette Way, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. So this application before you seeks to establish a material recovery facility, which is within use class B2, and it comprises a waste processing building, open storage area, and an office and welfare unit with operational vehicular and cycle parking and associated landscaping. Just some context, the proposed development is intended as a compensatory material recovery facility to make up for the loss of a safeguarded waste facility at Twyford Abbey Road, which is within the London Borough of Brent and falls within the OPDC boundaries. The former facility and the proposed facility are distanced approximately 7 kilometres apart. The application has been before the GLA, and the comments at stage 1 stated that the proposed development did not give any rise to any strategic planning issues, and the principle of development was supported. This image just shows about the site, which is also in Southall. It's within the strategic industrial location, Southall opportunity area, within the sink of Southall rail sides, and it's in an area which is deficient of access to a district park. Just some context about waste. Ealing falls within the West London Waste Authority, and there are 6 other boroughs which also fall within that, which are Brent, Harrow, Hillingdon, Hounslow, and Richmond upon Thames. Context on what waste processing is. It's the treatment of solid waste after collection and before disposal. A waste processing station is a facility where materials are sorted, treated, and processed to recover reusable materials. It often includes machinery and processes to separate recyclable items, manage non-hazardous waste, and convert organic waste into usable products. In context on waste facilities within Ealing, there are 15 waste facilities within the borough, and they have a throughput per annum of 860,000 tonnes. Here is the existing site plan. As you can see, the site has a few buildings on it. It's occupied and owned by Network Rail, and it's operational railway land and is used as external storage areas. From the site visit, you saw how the land was. So there's quite a lot of gravel. There's not much vegetation on the actual application site, and it is gated within an industrial location adjacent to the railway and railway sidings. So the proposed details. So the building would process waste internally. It will include a reception hall, a main processing area, and material recovery area. To the front of the site, there would be a 2-storey office building with a welfare unit and a canteen for staff. There would be 7 car parking spaces, 12 cycle spaces, and associated landscape, sustainable drainage, and to increase energy efficiency, the southern elevation of the building would have solar panels. The proposed development would treat 150,000 tons of waste per annum, and it would utilize its location adjacent to the railway to dispatch 50% of that via rail. So that would mean the rest would be via road. And then here is the site plan, and we accessed here on the site visit, and it just details how vehicles would come in, and there'll be a gantry here which I'll show in the elevations, and aggregate bays for where storage would be. And this is just a ground floor plan detailing the reception area. So that wouldn't be like a reception area in terms of like an office. It's more where the initial waste comes in, the processing area, and then at the rear of the site, the material recovery. The building would be 130 meters deep, and it would have a height of 13 meters at the apex, which you can see here. And then the office building would be 2 stories, but 6 meters in height. And here are some 3D visuals of, at the front, you can see the welfare and office area. And then here you can see the processing plant. So with respect to neighbouring amenity, as mentioned, the site is in a strategic industrial location. There are no nearby residents. The closest is about 130 meters away from the site. It should be noted that the site seeks to operate 24/7. An acoustic report has been received and reviewed detailing about the material recovery processing taking place on the site. Due to also being used at night and on the rail, there have been conditions attached limiting specific activities between 9 o'clock and 7 a.m. In terms of dust suppression and air quality, this has been reviewed and sufficient conditions have been added to mitigate any potential harm. Also, with respect to air quality, a reduction on HGV traffic is proposed, and the significance of using the rail also limits the type of emissions which you would get from HGV travel. With respect to potential workers here, a staff travel plan has been submitted, and that seeks to utilise public transport, cycling to and from the site, walking and car sharing, and a minibus service. Particularly at night when the shift patterns happen, it's key for active travel that people feel safe coming to and from the site. So the applicant has agreed to pay towards Section 106 contributions for improvements to transport facilities in the area. And then, yes, here you can see the proposed facility in relation to some of its neighbours, some residential properties and further industrial areas here, industrial buildings, sorry. And then the proposed landscaping plan. There would be a marked increase in terms of landscaping on the site. In terms of B&G, it exceeds the national requirement of 10% and has an amount of 16.15% of B&G. The type of proposal isn't required to provide urban greening, but still does. So just in conclusion, the proposal is for a waste facility, and it seeks to optimise an industrial location. It offers significant benefits to both Ealing and London and provides a compensatory waste facility which is required by the London Plan and the West London Waste Authority. The design is considered to be the design is well considered and ensures minimal environmental impact and enhances the site's sustainability through urban greening, biodiversity net gain, and energy efficiency measures. And just to bring your attention to the briefing notes sent around earlier today, in the report it mentioned that the application that was before the OPDC was pending consideration, but that was resolved to grant in June 2024 and is due to be finalised by the end of this year. And then the conclusion mentioned about the applicant having to improve transport facilities in the area. That isn't the case because obviously they fall outside the red line. But what the applicant has done is agreed to provide a contribution to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. I'll go this way, yes. Councillor Martin, please keep your hands raised until I've indicated. Carry on, Councillor.
Shall I go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think I'm right in saying that we were talking about specialist waste, it's construction waste. And when we talked about using the railways versus the roads, etc., is that both ways? Is that the waste coming in as well as coming out, or is that only the waste coming out? I think quite often construction waste is quite a high percentage of recyclable materials. Just wonder what the percentage we thought it was going to be. And do we know where it's going once it leaves the site? Because usually, you know, there'll be specific people interested in getting that waste that's been recycled. So just wondering where it was headed.
Councillor Mahmood, how many have you got? How many questions? Just one. Okay, we'll take your one and we'll get Olivier in. Use Mike.
Thank you, Chair. Similar to what Councillor Martin is saying, I missed that bit in, but you know, we are the part of West London Alliance, so I'm just wondering, in terms of using this facility, so we have got 5 or 6 borough are the member of the West London Alliance. So I just wanted to clarify that it is any of the borough can use their waste using that recovery centre, or Ealing Borough will be only using that centre. And the second thing is, when you said, I said, Chair, I missed that thing, 50% waste.
What part of second is when you said you had one question?
It's linking with another question, Chair, if you allow me.
Right. Okay.
Or we'll come back later, Chair, if it's too much. Yeah. If you say 50% waste can only be carried out by train and 50% will be transported, which and this is exactly happening from outside lorries coming. And how many lorries are coming? Is there any monitoring, or they are coming day in, day out? Or is there any mechanism where we can measure in terms of nitrogen dioxide level or pollution level? That's
how many questions have you got here? Right. Olivier, I know you're scribbling down as I was, but there's probably about 5 there, but go on.
First of all, Councillor Martin, so the new facility will be able to process both municipal, commercial and industrial waste, as well as construction, demolition and excavation waste types. What is common, especially in Ealing, is there's a dominant amount of demolition and excavation waste, but this facility also seeks to do the municipal, commercial and industrial. So it's a different type of waste, and that's why a bigger facility is needed and a more efficient one than was currently at the Twyford Abbey Road site. So the waste it's a commercial application. So obviously the council doesn't have full control of where the waste comes from or where it goes, but it would be contracts with the developer as to that type of waste. And the waste would be coming via predominantly HGV, but also by rail as well. And Councillor Mahmood's question about who can use the centre. So again, as it's a commercial entity, it is obviously up to the applicant. But what we do have is conditions on vehicles and the type of vehicles that will be entering the site, and that will be monitored as well, to also understand in terms of like the distances that have travelled and into getting to the site. So the applicant has agreed to that. but because it's a joint up body with 6 boroughs, you may get a crossover in terms of waste, because I can show you just the borough boundaries are obviously quite close, and especially where the OPDC is, you've got Ealing, Brent, and Hammersmith and Fulham. And then, what was your last question about how much is coming in and out in terms of tonnage, or? Oh yeah, trips. So yeah, so there'll be 142 HGV trips that have been proposed. Yeah.
So the question is, if people didn't hear, is it per day? Yeah. Just to try to find out the detail. Do you want to come back to that?
Yeah, I'll come back to that. Sir.
Okay. Just have you covered all of Councillor Mahmood's questions? Has he, Councillor Mahmood? Just to be clear, so that while you're looking, or your colleagues are looking, some of the waste will come in via train as well as going out by train once the agreement for using the train is reached.
Yes, that's correct. So the applicants applied for a permit from the Environment Agency. So that is for 75,000 tonnes, and that would firstly be via road. But they also have permitted development rights to use the railway sidings as well. So they will be applying for the additional 75,000 via rail. Yeah.
And that 75,000 includes coming and going?
Yeah.
So, okay, right, okay. So just so the committee are clear, because I'm not sure the report was that clear on that. Okay. So, right, okay. Councillor Rice, next.
Thank you. Can I just refer to the pre-application meeting with the West London Waste Authority? It just said here that that the meeting said that the idea of using the site for the waste was not unacceptable, but more evidence was required to justify why the site was appropriate, or to be the waste site. So I'm just wondering if I can get some kind of clarification on what the issue was as to why there was a belief at that point that the site was not acceptable to be used. Because seeing as there's nothing really later on in the report, and the West London Waste Authority didn't actually seem to supply any kind of comment in the consultation. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? It's a singular question. Thank you. No, right, I have one, but carry on. I've got to get to it now.
Yes, so with respect of the pre-application meetings with the West London Waste Authority, so there are policies which have to be adhered to, as well as the London plan. So what the applicant had to find was a compensatory waste facility in close proximity to the one that was to be lost. One of the benefits of this site is its location quite close to the previous one, as well as having the option of using railway sidings. So in an environmental aspect, it's actually a preferred site. As well as that, it's a relatively clear site which would allow for a development of this size to be used here. It has good transport links in terms of the road network to get to the site, and obviously in terms of our site in Ealing, there's quite a lot of development happening, so it's quite a preferable site in terms of waste, and it allows waste to be moved around the borough and then also to come to this site and then moved out via the railway sidings.
Thanks, it is reassuring. So there doesn't seem to be any kind of reason why there was an issue with the site. There's nothing for us to really bear in mind. But I mean, I don't know why that's been phrased in that way, but I don't know, maybe someone raised a point in the meeting.
Yes, I think the discussions obviously had to take place, and the West London Waste Authority were given the opportunity to comment further as part of the planning application, and also didn't raise any objection when it went to stage 1 with the GLA either. So yeah, they're considered happy with it. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Jessel.
I'd just like to know, just regarding the building, the roof, will it be a green roof or what kind of roof will it be, considering there'll be all that, you know, dust or whatever in the building while the process is happening?
Yes, so how the proposal has been designed, it would have a green roof, and it would also have solar PV panels to maximize energy. The processing building itself wouldn't require heat, but the office building would, and that would have like a small, it's only 50 square meters, so it doesn't need to meet Part L because of its size. So yeah, it would be an energy efficient building.
So the way I read the report, there's a green roof on the office building, but not on the substantive building. Is that the reason because it's not Part L, or?
Yeah, so it doesn't need to have it on that one. And then also with buildings of this size, sometimes the substrate sometimes impacts the building in terms of the joists and the structure. So that's why it's been put on the office building rather than the larger processing facility building.
So it's a lighter weight building is what we're trying to say. So you couldn't put a green roof on it even if we wanted to. Okay, there's one question from me, Olivia, which is what we were talking about on Saturday on the terms of EV charging and car parking spaces, etc. And I'm just going to refer to page 177 under transport matters. So I'll let you get there. So my understanding is that from the site visit on Saturday, there's only 2 EV charging points, but it says in the body of the second paragraph that the proposal would provide for 4 staff parking spaces with 7 HGV spaces, and it goes on. And then it says third line from the bottom says all staff car parking spaces should be fitted with active EV charging points. So it depends what you call staff car parking, I suppose, because the 7 HGV and the 4 staff car parking are kind of changeable from what I can read. Also the question was about passive provision for the future. There's nothing about passive provision in here that I can see, but I'm just wondering if we got the numbers right. And can the staff use those HGV spaces, etc.? It's a little bit, because basically, by and large, one of the things here is the transport to and from it. And it is a little bit, well, the PTAL rating is very low, it's 1. And I would imagine quite a few people would drive it, especially as it shifts. So it's just ironing this out so we know what we're actually voting for tonight.
So yeah, there will be 4 staff car parking bays and 7 HGV parking spaces. What we have sought is a car parking management plan to finalise how this would work, because yeah, as you mentioned, having car parking bays and HGV parking bays together wouldn't really work. So yeah, that is still to be designed. Of those, there will be 2 with EV charging spaces, and the rest would be passive as required by the London plan.
Because it goes on about these will be secured by condition that it's recommended that all 4 car parking spaces are fitted with EV charging points. So, so we've changed it to 2 at the moment, but it's still part of, you know, up for discussion, should I say? Still.
Yes, Jay. Yeah.
So I would say that we would like to include passive provision, if not before, you know, if that's an easier way around this, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, so that's under condition 27. So yeah, if that needs to be revised, then yeah.
Okay. Sorry, are the committee happy with that proposal? Okay. All right. That's my questions. Okay. Now I see no more questions, so I'll open it up the debate. Councillor Kelly, quick off the mark tonight, Kelly.
Well, just quickly, thank you very much, Chair, for asking the question about EV points. I mean, I'm sure what is being proposed is compliance to the London plan, but if the developers, builders, the operators of these places are listening, and perhaps even listening to me, you know, just get ahead of the game when it comes to EV. Don't be not, you know, the paucity of it. Just put as much EV in as you can. You know, look to the future. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you're trying to say that for applications in front of us in the future as well. You're not just talking about this one, I think. Councillor Ball.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I agree on the EV point. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm going to be very brief on this. It's not particularly pretty looking application. It's not very sweet smelling application, etc. But it's something that is needed. It's replacing the facility in the OBDC area, and crucially, the idea of this site is to get half the waste transported by rail, which is cheaper for the operator, but more importantly, it's much better environmentally. So I mean, clearly, it's an ideal site for that reason because it's got the rail access, and as we saw on the site visit, it's quite a long way from residential. So yeah, I'll be supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Ball. Councillor Mahmood.
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly, we don't consider these type of material recovery application every day. I come across, I think, first time in 10 years, this type of application. So I think, and as far as this proposal is concerned, is completely align our Reg 19, new local plan Reg 19, reducing weight, reducing waste and support circular economy. And that should be our target if we will follow the new Reg 19. So I'm happy to support that application.
Thank you, Councillor Mahmood. Councillor Raza.
Thanks, Chair. On the site visit as well, it was great to see actually physicality of where people were living with where this site is going to be. I'm quite satisfied that it's a good enough distance away from it, and this is a service that we do need in the borough, so I'm minded to support.
Yeah, I think that's kind of exemplifies why we do a site visit, really, because you see it on a plan, you just kind of think houses and you can't judge distance. But yeah, I think that for me exactly the same, actually, Councillor Ross. Thank you for pointing that out. Councillor Martin.
Well, similarly to everyone else, I mean, it looked an incredibly suitable location, and the fact that it's sort of bang on the side of the railway is sort of perfect. So I'm definitely minded to support.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hear anyone against it, and I'm just, it felt like the right place, and you're going to come back in, Olivia, and so if you're going to come back in, I'm going to ask you another question then. Right. The other question is, what incentive is it for the developer to just not to use the railway? Well, he's got 75,000 on the road, tons going out of there. And then I'll finish. Thanks.
So just to answer the previous question about the HGV movements, it's 172 two-way HGV movements per day, which isn't uncommon for an industrial location. Two-way.
An incentive for using the rail?
Yeah, so the incentive for using the rail is that it's more sustainable. There's less impact in terms of air quality via the emissions of HGVs.
Councillor Rice, have you got something you want to contribute to the debate?
But just the debate, just very quickly. I've on 3 occasions had the opportunity to go on tours of MRFs and have a proper look around, a proper understanding of it, and I can thoroughly recommend it to other people. And it'd be just fantastic if we can perhaps use this as a means to educate children, adults, everybody about the whole process of recycling, get people to recycle more and to make sure they do it properly. So I think it could be used for education as well. So I'm very, very proud to have it in the borough.
Thank you. It's all been positive comments so far, and I won't change from that. And I think it is an incredible site that I didn't even know existed. And it's one of those things that we actually stumble across, not us as planning committee members, stumble across on site visits. But yeah, it seems to be in the right place, seems to be the right thing. I haven't got any actual objections to it, so I'll be minded to vote on this. Okay, I'm going to. You know, when I ask for people to put their hands up, that's what I actually want them to do,
Yeah.
but
I've
not
got
wait till I finish,
situation
and then
with
we're going to
my
go to the
heart, so I'm
vote.
just struggling with that. No,
Right.
it's just that I was concerned about the odor, the waste and everything, but I think all the conditions and all the authorities, relevant authorities that have been approached, they've put everything in place. So my concerns have actually been answered here. So I will be voting for this.
Okay, right, I'm going to go to the vote. I'm not looking at anyone. I'm going to go straight to the vote. Okay, all those in favour, please show. Councillor Paul can vote in this one. Got that? Sorry. All those against, just for clarity? Any abstentions? Just for clarity, because it has gone wrong before. So none and none. Okay, before we finish tonight, this is Alison's last meeting with us. We should thank her for all the service. How many years, Alison? 40 years of service with the London Borough of Ealing. Wow, well done, Alison. You put up with so many councillors over that amount of time and so many stupid questions from us. Yeah. Okay. Well, we wish you the best in your retirement, and we probably will bump into you somewhere around. But on behalf of the committee and previous committee members, thank you very much for your service, and you've been great. Thank you. Just before we go, again, planning training. I'm going to talk to the Vice Chair and Alex, but I'm just thinking out loud here that we might try and bring in external trainers. We did once before from PAS. It might be a good idea to do that once again. So give you some active training in terms of, going out and pretending you're on a committee sort of thing. So yeah, that was quite useful when we did it before, and it's just, it changes it up a little bit, and it'd be a good thing to do in my view. Councillor Kelly.
Yeah, sounds like a great idea, but I do hope it's held in person. Thank you.
The whole point is to have it in person.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you break up into little breakout groups, etc., etc. So yeah.
Not on Teams. Yeah.
No, that isn't the point. Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for your patience tonight. Thank you. And the next meeting is early December, I can't remember. 4th of December. Right, thank you. Good night.